to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Josh, and of course, you're only hearing me because Corey's off doing some super secret stuff tonight. Hopefully, be able to tell you guys about what he's off doing soon. But fear not, I'm here to talk about all the Act 2 of episode revenue goodies that we have coming out of Festival of the Lost. We got a nice little live stream last week where we took the half of the week to not be recording between the live stream and the massive twat from last week. So we're going to kind of dive into both of those, talk a little bit about the story in Revenant, or, again, lack thereof, and kind of take a temperature check on how we're feeling 7 weeks into the episode. So I guess I kind of want to start there. I want to start with episode Revenant, with Act 2. You guys know I wasn't the biggest fan of 1 with the focus on Onslaught Salvation. I don't dislike it, I just, hey, for reasons that I've discussed both on the show and with some of you out in chat, I'm just kind of burned out on Horde type modes right now. We had 2 really, really good months of Onslaught, I think, during Into the Light. That was just enough for me. When we were getting to about the 5-6 week mark, I was kind of tired of Onslaught too. So to have a whole season where that's the primary activity, kind of a bummer for me. But fear not, Prison of Elders is here to save the day, or I guess I should say Challenge of the Elders is here. I have mixed feelings on this. I don't think that this is, I want to start with the obvious. I don't think this is bad. This is a very coil-like activity, and I do like it for that. To me, this is quicker and more rewarding instantly than Salvation is. Onslaught Salvation, that is. I like the encounter variety, I guess. I wish that the bonus objectives triggered at the beginning of said encounter, instead of you having to deliberately drag your feet a little bit in the encounters, and then you're hoping, if you're playing with randos especially, that they're not just blowing through the objectives and not letting you get the bonus ones done. Some bonus ones, fairly easy to do. Hey, get precision headshots. Hey, get ability kills or melee kills or something. And then there's ones that are like, hey, go pick up this Scorch Cannon, which always seems to happen for me when there's gun bats flying around. I hate the emphasis on gun bats this season, but overall, I like the changes to Prison of Elders, now called Tomb of Elders, and then there's Challenge of Elders, which is the coil-like portion of this, whereas Tomb of Elders is very similar in nature to like doing a 10-wave onslaught. I still think it's more rewarding than that right off the bat, and I like it for that. I think that makes it way more enjoyable. It makes it more fun for me. I like the idea of just being able to pop in and do this real quick. You can complete a rotation, which I consider to be the encounters, and the couple of encounters, the boss and the traversal section, in a little under 10 minutes, I would say. Like, if you have a competent team, you can probably do it in like 5 or 6. That's really, really nice and really rewarding. Again, I think if you're doing the bonus objectives, the loot is there for this. I tend to have a glaring problem with how this act in general is laid out, and I really hope it makes Bungie kind of reconsider what they're trying to do. As we all know, starting with Act 1, they decided, hey, we're not going to make the seasonal weapons craftable anymore. We want to put the chase back in the game, and I gotta be totally honest, I've seen my playtime taper off pretty heavily since they made that announcement. We are in the 7th week of the season, and I have yet to hit 100 in my season pass. I can't tell you the last time that happened. This is probably officially the longest I've ever taken to hit level 100 in my season pass. I will get there sometime either this week or next week, though. And I plan to try and get to 200 by the end, but the season just really hasn't been doing it for me, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, if I'm feeling the burnout after 10 years or what, but between that and the lackluster story, I'm actually really bummed at the storyline for this season so far. I'm very disappointed. We're now officially through. If we were getting this in like the traditional seasonal archetype, we'd be 2/3 of the way through. And I want to state the obvious, that I'm bummed out, and this is very similar to Echoes, until you get to that last part of the act, which this time it is a mission into the Prison of Elders. You're basically doing a quick little solo jaunt through. It's very easy to do. And then you get an awesome cutscene. And this is a cutscene that was teased back when we got the roadmap given to us immediately after the final shape. This was actually teased in the video that would later announce Project Frontiers at the end. I think this is a really cool cutscene of the Reef Wars. I really like that. And you come out of that, and oh my god, the Fickrell has raised Skolas, and that's huge. That's huge for fans of the lore, for fans of Destiny One. To explain to as I'm going to explain to A1 Johnny why I was so excited about that when Skolas came up on screen. Um, I think that's a very cool development. Also, Skolas looks so tiny next to Fickrell. Skolas is almost certainly the antagonist of the exotic mission, in my opinion. You could have Fickrell in there, but I'm not sure. Overall, just how this has been laid out, I don't mind getting the story up front, but man, the fact that you can blow through what's supposed to be like 3 weeks of story in under an hour feels pretty bad. In about 2.5 hours of gameplay, I had the whole story for Act 2 done, the minor, major, and key field works all done, which is only 4, 2, and 1, respectfully. But I was just like, oh my god, this is rough. This is really rough. Um, I'm still not like the loot is fine. We got we have the new sniper, we have the Void Sniper, we have the Arc SMG, and we have the return of the Grid Skipper Pulse Rifle from Splicer. Very excited to get my hands on a Grid Skipper. I've not gotten one yet, so definitely going to be grinding out for one of those in the coming weeks. By all accounts, everything I've heard of Grid Skipper, it sounds like it's awesome again. It's another very worthy Void Pulse alongside Claws of the Wolf that we got in Iron Banner a season or two ago. Big fan of Grid Skipper. I've always liked it. I've always liked the Splicer suite. Just, I don't know. The weapons this season are kind of hit and miss for me. I really love the Arc Pulse Rifle with jolting feedback. I think that's been really fun. I want to dive into these new weapons once I've gotten a little bit more time to play around with them. This has been an extraordinarily busy week. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. I've had time to get a couple rolls. Haven't had time to get my hands on a Grid Skipper yet. Did run the dungeon with the double drops though. But getting back to my gripes about the season, I do think that it's a really good thing episodes are going away. Let me start there. It's a good thing episodes are going away because I think it's really laid out pretty rough. This isn't great. I don't mind getting the story up front. I actually kind of like it because that kind of gives me the last that means I'm hitting it like real hard in the first couple weeks of the act when everybody else is, and then I'm kind of tapering off towards the end if there's nothing else I want to do. What I don't love is that I now don't have that reason to log in every week. So it's like, oh, if I take a week off, I'm not beating myself up. I'm not going damn, I miss Destiny. Damn, I really want to go play this. I haven't really had that feeling post final shape. I've been in a really weird place for about 5 or 6 months about how content is distributed within this game. And it looks like we're following the same roadmap as last time. We're going to get the exotic mission in part 3, and that's going to be really the event that we get dropped. So right now, it really feels like the only actual seasonal events that we have are Tomb of the Elders and Tomb/Challenge of the Elders and Onslaught Salvation. If you don't like arena or horde style combat, then this is not for you. I'm actually at the point where I'm looking much more forward to Iron Banner next week because first of all, the two weapons really excite me in Iron Banner. A stasis rocket pistol, very excited for that. But outside of the dungeon, I kind of feel like the season's been a big whiff and a miss for me. The flaws of releasing the story all at once are becoming really apparent because it's like, oh, well, we'll meet with you free a certain character, spoilers ahead, towards the end of the act, and she's like, "I'll contact you, once I've been able to contact Ido." And literally, all you have to do is walk to the next room. Another time, you talk to Ido, and then you immediately go to the holo projector to talk to her again. Then you turn around and go back to her. It's just it's horrible. It very clearly like this felt like a snap decision that they made to decide, hey, we're gonna really sell the story at once. We've already, gone through and coded it all though, so you're just getting it like it is. And it really, really it exposes it to me that this is how the story has been going for a long time, like the weekly check-ins and stuff. It just doesn't feel as monotonous to me because I'm doing it every week and I'm not letting it stack up. Wish was the first time I ever let stuff stack up, and that was awful. That was awful how many times I go on coil in between just like talking to people. This time it wasn't this run, I will say, wasn't as bad, but it also wasn't great either. Again, it's just like, man, we're not gonna get any more story for like 6 weeks. Like, we're not gonna get any more story until after Christmas. This is rough. It's rough for me. I mean, hey, I'm a big proponent of, if you don't like something, don't play it. Don't waste your time complaining about it. I'm trying to offer some meaningful critique instead of just complaining. I know that's the joke, is that I like to complain about everything. I want this game to be really good. I still want it to be good, but at this point, I feel like if I dip, I'm not missing a ton. Right now, what's really keeping me engaged is endgame stuff. Like, the dungeon is the thing that's kept me the most engaged so far this season. I'm very excited for the upcoming exotic mission. I'm happy to be back in the Prison of Elders. I do think, obviously, it's the next evolution of Prison of Elders, like we had in Destiny 1. I think if we hadn't already gotten Onslaught, I think this would be a really cool thing to keep around and build new encounters and new bosses for. It's cool to see some familiar faces back in there. I did really like seeing Urzog the Hatred. I liked seeing the Light Blade running around in there, the Riflemen being back, Skowas as mentioned. It was really cool that they were all back. It's kind of a little jaunt down memory lane in a lot of ways. I just find myself being like, where are we going? The thing that was the most intriguing to me is the story of this act's echo. And I want to put together a good lore corner for us leading into the Christmas holidays, where we talk about that echo a little bit, because I've got some theories. I've seen some interesting theories on this, and I'm very, very interested to see where this goes, because echo number one was just kind of a wet fart. Okay, cool. Maya Sundaresh got it. Maya being in the story was really, really cool. But oh my god, like, it just wasn't great. I do have a feeling, like, if I can speculate just a little bit, I think that the Echo probably ends up in Ido's hands by the end of this act, or at least by the beginning of Apollo, given how the cutscene talks about, like, Varric talks in the cutscene about how, like, the Echo sings a song of old Reese, and it's longing to recognize, the next in line, essentially, the person who can restore Reese to its former glory, and this and that, and that. Ido fits the bill for that. And that's part of why you have to go recruit Aramis, is because of that. Because she's almost as old as, we found out she's almost as old as Varix. That's kind of wild, but like, when we consider the lore of on Aramis and Aetheris, it makes sense. Now, who could the Echo be? There's been a lot of speculation, and the two names I've seen most prominently come up are Aetheris and Celsius from the Doom of Celsius. I want to put together a little bit of lore on those guys before I make a definitive statement. I think that's just kind of some wild speculation on the part of the fan base right now, but I do think that's something interesting for us to ponder. There has to be a way to keep these races in the story going forward, and I think that would be an interesting way to keep the Fallen in, is, is Aetheris' faction out there? We know that when Aramis left post Season of the Seraph, she was going to try and find Aetheris, and, well, clearly didn't make it far, because we tracked her down on Europa, a year later. So I definitely have some questions about it and how this is going to shake out. The other thing that I've seen a lot of critique on, and I'm going to go ahead and agree on this one, the loot in Prison of Elders, I keep calling Prison of Elders Tomb of Elders, doesn't feel different enough from Onslaught. There's nothing you can get just from Tomb of Elders. It's kind of a pick your poison, unless you really, really care about crafting specific tonics, and you have to go Tomb of Elders to get certain ingredients for certain tonics. This has to be expected. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have different loot sources, obviously. And my rebuttal to folks saying there's not enough unique loot is, well, we didn't get that last episode either. You were still getting the same weapon and stuff. You're still getting the same weapon drops. What I would like to see is a little bit more frequency of the double perk weapons. I think especially if you're taking away crafting, I think the double perk weapons need to be dropped just a little bit more frequently, like 10% more maybe. We should be getting double perk weapons a little bit more often. And I understand it's a delicate balance of, well, you don't want people getting their god rolls right away and then not playing and this and that. My stance has always been the same. If the content is good, they will come. And I think that's something that we're really struggling with right now. Is like the content is fine. There's nothing actually wrong with it. I personally have been calling for the return of Prison of Elders for a very long time. Just after years of doing half-baked arena modes, Vex Offensive, Vex Offensive, whatever the one was in Splicer that we did, Catch Crash, God, what was the other horrible one during Plunder that we had to go do? After all these years, it's doing these half-baked arena modes. It's like, I don't really want to do this anymore. This is like the gameplay loop is just getting old. We really desperately need new activities. And don't get me wrong, I like that this takes after more coil than a traditional like arena style mode. I think that Onslaught has kind of taken that over, and I think that's part of why I was irritated by it being a seasonal activity. Although I understand with that and with the battlegrounds that we got last season, those are things they can just put into those respective playlists, into Vanguard Ops and into Onslaught to keep going next year to help those playlists feel a little bit better when you go to play them. Cool. I understand the objective there. That is totally fine to me. I suspect Tomb of Elders is going to stick around in some regard. It feels like they put a lot of work into this for it to just go away. So I think Tomb of Elders is probably going to get expanded upon. At least that's what I would do. And I'm curious to see, what comes in Heresy, because, we're just getting an exotic mission for the rest of this, then okay, cool. We got a sneak peek at, what else did we get during that live stream? We got a sneak peek at some Dawning gear, I believe. They did mention a few things during the Dawning, and I want to pull up some notes that I wrote down, because, it's been a while. I've slept since then. I put a lot of updates in in another chat that I'm a part of, which I find really humorous and amusing. But there was a all right. So kind of covering the rest of that live stream. I'm not going to talk about anything that we've already seen. We'll get to the artifact mods here in just a minute. Okay, so in regards to Dawning, the Dawning armor looks kinda sick. Shout out to Green Crayons for posting it in the Discord. That armor looks really sick. I think this looks really cool. I personally would have preferred to have seen this for Halloween. Oh, for Christmas? I don't know how this is Christmas themed, but I'll take it. I think it looks really, really, really cool. I need to see how the hunter set actually turns out. Are the wings on the cloak or on the chest piece? Because I have questions. But I think that looks really, really cool. I'm interested seeing some of the roles you can get on these weapons that DMG was talking about. Withering Gaze and Bait and Switch can roll on the Void Dawning linear fusion rifle. That is the weapon this year, is a linear fusion, and you can get both of those. That is just instantly going to be an awesome combo. I can't wait. Glaciocasm has a new role. It can roll Overflow and Closing Time. Little interested in that. I'm not huge on Glaciocasm, but I know a lot of our PvP fans are. So gonna keep an open mind on that one. I will be grinding for that linear though. I hope the linear is better than the shotgun that we just got for Festival of the Lost. I was really underwhelmed by Arcane Embrace. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's good either. I I am very whelmed. I'm very whelmed by that. Act 3 is launching on January the 7th. I need to look at our calendar to see kind of when we're expecting to be able to cover that, but I would anticipate us doing a show that week. I would anticipate that being us returning from the holidays for Tower Casuals, just so we can talk about this, especially. Uh, the Exotic Quest is going to drop on that same day. I assume that the whole story is dropping that day too, so I'm going to be trying to kill myself to get through the story. I hope I don't have to do this mission like 3 or 4 times in one day. The slug is an exotic slug shoddy called Slayer's Fang, and this thing looks absolutely ridiculous. One bullet hits the slug shoddy that once the bullet hits just about anything, it's going to shatter and track if it doesn't hit a person. I think is how I understood it and how they were explaining it. I was very tired when this was happening. Reload gives you the whole mag up front instead of one shell at a time, also, which I really, really like. I think that this looks really cool. I think this looks really cool. I don't know how good this is going to be as a gun, but this thing looks like it could be absolutely wild. This is getting back to what the idea of what an exotic should be. An exotic should be something that's totally wacky and out of the norm if you're going to run it. Now, I will say, I think that this year we've done really, really good on the exotics front. I think back to, we're going to get Slayer's Fang. Slayer's Fang isn't dropping until January 7th. I'm still counting as part of this year. We got Choir of One. We got Ergo Sum. We got the, oh God, what's the linear from fucking Salvation's Edge? I've already forgotten the name of it. Probably because I don't have it. God damn, I can't remember. I forgot this. Euphony. I don't know why I kept trying to call it entropy. Euphony. Um, and Still Hunt. We've had a decent year on the exotic front. Like I can't even front on that one. I think we've had a pretty good year. But again, I guess when we talk about rewards, when we talk about loot, I was having this discussion with Nerd the other day when we were playing. We were playing the story, and we were talking about crafting not being here and this and that. Um, he is pro. We need it in dungeons and raids. I am pro. We need it for seasonal activities because they add so many motherfucking guns every single season. And don't get me wrong, I'm very happy for it. I think that a happy compromise is kind of like we got with Echoes, where you can craft the seasonal weapons, but you can't craft the reprised weapons. I like that as a compromise. Um, 'Cause I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna need to be like showered in loot if you want to do this, and I think the tonics do help. I'll be really clear. I don't really care about the volatile tonics nearly as much, but I do really, really, really like those loot tonics. Big fan of those. Pop one of those when I'm doing a 50-wave onslaught, and I feel like my time is being more rewarded if I do it that way. You'd pop one during Challenge of Elders, and you're really swimming in the loot. So I do and don't like that. I'm still looking forward to stuff that's going to come. I think it's really cool. They're talking about doing a Dawning Bake Off event. It sounds like you're going to get emblems and armor out of it. So are we are we going to get the Celestial Dragon set as part of that? Like that is absolute heavy reach on my part. That is absolute trying to like will it into the universe if we're going to get something like that. But uh, I think shaking up anything having to do with these events is welcome at this point. I made a reference at the beginning about Festival of the Lost, and some of us were talking about this in Discord over the last couple weeks, and I've always been one of those guys like, hey, if you don't like something, just don't play it. But there was a post about how like, we should be thankful for what we have because look at how bad Diablo's one was. And my whole argument, I guess my rebuttal to that is Just because one game has a really bad event doesn't mean that we should settle for our game also having a bad event. Because I'm sorry, well, haunted sectors were cool the first time we did them, and then the fact that we didn't add anymore or change them up the next year or whatever is a really big bummer. And like, listen, push comes to shove, gun to my head, I would much rather the developers at Bungie focus on making new seasonal and expansion content than a 3-week Halloween event. But at the same time, like, can we just like get some variety? We've been doing the same haunted sectors since they started this. I did like 20 of these things this year, and I promise you I never once saw the Europa one. Every single one of these lost sectors that I did was either the one on the is it the one on the EDZ? I think it's the one on the EDZ. The one on the EDZ and the one on the moon. I got the one on the moon 2 or 3 times. I got the one on the EDZ almost every time. And I'm okay with that because like that's realistically it's just the quickest one to do, but damn man, I found myself just getting so annoyed because you're gonna tell me after all this time we couldn't do these in like some of the Savathun lost sectors. Like I understand not being able to do them in the Pale Heart ones, but like we couldn't do them in some of the Savathun ones, like make them a little spooky. I don't know. I guess part of that's also because of how spread out they started making them at that point. And I think like if you're not able to keep doing them that way, then that's fine. Let's do a new event. We've done haunted sectors for like 3 years now. And I don't get me wrong, I like that there's different dialogue with it. That's always nice. It's cool that they go do a whole book of Tales of the Forgotten every year. I do enjoy that, but man, I would really like to see some innovation here. We need it in all across all four of them. You can reuse the stuff for like a year, I think, before fans start going like, what are we even doing here? Like, it just honestly at this point it just makes me not even want to engage. I also see like the rewards, and to me the rewards aren't worth it. I'm never gonna buy an event card. I almost did this year for that really cool and weird ghost, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I got my shader, which I think you got for 15 or 16 lost sectors, and that was the last thing I earned. And I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm out of here. I got plenty of shotgun drops. I also think that like the loot drops weren't as generous out of this as they were in something like the solstice, and like they will be in the dawning with turning in the cookies and getting packages and stuff. That's a bummer. That's a bummer to me. Like we gotta do something about these events. At some point, something's gotta be done about the events because I want this to be an excuse to come play the game, but it's just now when I see these, I just kind of like groan a little bit. Like I'm gonna come participate because I want to play it. I want to be able to talk about it. Like I'm not gonna complain about something without playing it, right? Like if you don't play it, I don't think you have any right to complain or try to critique it if you're not even going to attempt the activity. If you're not even going to play it and engage with it, we're all about offering constructive feedback here and not just hey, this is shit and we have no solutions. Like honestly, go back. The Mercury is no longer possessed by the darkness. Let's do the haunted forest again. I can't believe I'm saying those words. What if we did the haunted forest again? What if we did the haunted forest? What if what if they ran a simulation in the core of Nessus or something? Like there are so many weird in-universe explanations that you could do here. And I think it would be really, really fun. Like do something like that. I'm not even advocating we have to go back to the haunted forest. Just using that as an example. For Christmas, I don't even know what to do for Christmas. No idea. Like put snow on the maps. I know that you can pick up snowballs and stuff, but put snow on the maps. Um, do things of that nature. There are a lot of things that you could do. Guardian games, it's been thrown around before, but bring Sparrow Racing League into it. It doesn't even have to be like the core of the event. It could just be like one of the events you participate in. Like that would be cool. I think a little firing range could be really cool. There's certain things that you could just do, but again, it requires time, manpower, and money to do those. And it's pretty clear that with a depleted roster, what are you going to do? You're going to focus on the stuff that's going to stay in the game, honestly, where the people can play the whole year and not just for 3-4 weeks. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sit here and whine too much about it. I think it's still okay. It's still fine. Moving into some of the stuff we had in the TWAB over the last couple of weeks, there was so much. We have 5 new artifact perks that are in the game as of this week. Authorized mods melee in the first column gives you armor energy costs of all armor mods affecting your melee are significantly discounted. Column 2 is emergency flare. Emergency reinforcements consumes all but 1 armor charge. Thick of it. Rapid final blows while surrounded grant you armor charge, and then the boost while you are surrounded, your weapons have increased handling. Swords gain increased charge rate. I really, really, really like this one. I love this next one though. I'm a very big fan of this next one. Curative orbs. The first time you break a target's shield or break the shield of a guardian using their super, you create an orb of power, and then the boost for that if you used a corresponding tonic. Picking up an orb of power, an elemental pickup, or a tangle grants you a small amount of health. I like this one. I immediately sprinted to get this into my build. And then column 5, arc compounding. Arc sources deal increased damage to blind targets. That's another really fun one, especially if you are running the storm chase or storm not storm chaser, storm chaser, storm breaker, whatever we call the tickle fingers super. This is a great one to use for that. I think it's really good to use for a Lyra's handshake build too, in particular. I think those two are really really fun with this. So big fan of that. There were a bunch of sandbox updates that happened. I'm not gonna fly through all of these too heavily. It is what it is. I don't want to just I want to just kind of hit these real quickly. For example, roaming supers have had stuff buffed. They estimate that it'll that you will get starting in Act 2. I just want to read this. Starting with Act 2, we will be changing the damage-based recharge parameters for all roaming supers against PvE combatants only, increasing the amount of super energy gained when damaging combatants by roughly 3 times the amount it is today. The intent here is you are more likely to have a roaming super when you need it for that panic activation or to jump an enemy spawn point. In our internal playtests, we've been having a blast with extra activations per encounter activity, and it is especially spicy with fireteam coordination. As a reference, if you were using between 3 and 5 Nova Bombs while playing in Advanced Nightfall, you can now charge around 6 or 8 Nova Warp activations in the same activity. We respect that super choice is an essential part of build crafting, and not every encounter or strike is a perfect fit for every roaming super, but we do think this change entices a fire team to bring a roaming super where there otherwise might not have been one. We're upping the damage roaming supers do against champions by 30 to 55%, depending on the super. This roughly brings all roaming supers to a damage profile against to a similar damage profile against champions, and will give them a distinct advantage in your next Grandmaster Nightfall over a one-off super. The supers that got the changes: Arc Staff, Golden Gun, Spectral Blades, Silk Strike, Fists of Havoc, Burning Maul. The exclusion is Pyrogale Gauntlets. It's classified as a one-off super. Hammer of Soul, Sentinel Shield, Glacial Quake, Blade Fury, Storm Trance, Daybreak, Nova Warp, and Winter's Wrath. Now, I made the note for Burning Maul, and I need to go back to Golden Gun for a second, because it does say excludes Celestial Nighthawk variant as it's classified as a one-off super. Celestial Nighthawk is currently busted as all hell, and there is a fixed targeting early December for this one. You can currently get off a Celestial Nighthawk, and if you have, I want to say it is, it's Outbreak Perfected, and I'm trying to remember the exact thing you need to have on in Prismatic, the exact one that'll trigger it. But I want to say, I think I bookmarked it. Did I bookmark the one that I saw? I was trying this out last night, and it definitely works, for the record. Oh, I might not have. I might not have saved it. Damn. Definitely thought that I did. Um, maybe somebody. I think somebody sent it to me too. Yeah, somebody sent it to me. Okay. Um, just nobody gave me the. Oh boy, I did not get the fragment that you need for it. The fragment is it's absolutely wild. Uh, I was wondering. We ran it last night. We ran the dungeon last night, and I was wondering why I got my super back so quickly. And I mean, I didn't get it back like too much faster than normal, but I did switch to Outbreak, and I was using Celestial, and I was using Prismatic, and when I was checking my Prismatic grenades and stuff and shooting with Outbreak, I was generating a ton of super energy. I got off 3 Celestial Nighthawks in 1 damage phase for the final boss, and I would have gotten off more if I would have known what I was actually doing. So this is really cool. I would definitely advise, hey, go take advantage of this. I watched somebody melt the final boss of Ghost of the Deep in 1 damage phase earlier using this method, and it's really cool. I think this is cool. It's really fun. Go use it while you absolutely can. So apparently, 1 phase solo witness is doable with this, supposedly. I don't know if it actually is or not, but that's still, all things considered, it's kind of cool. I think that when things like that get busted, it's fun for a short amount of time, especially because it's happening in PvE and it doesn't have any effect in PvP, obviously. So I think that's cool. It's going to take them a little bit to get that fix out. So you got a couple weeks to enjoy. You have the timeline of double drops and Vespers host to go do this. So definitely take advantage of it. Like if it's something like this, I advocate taking advantage of it. Like why wouldn't you? So excited for that. I've seen your super comes back stupid fast with Silk Strike. Also, Glacial Quake. We saw the change in damage that Glacial Quake does last night. Like thing was already super powerful this season. Then they made it even better. So it was very funny to watch A1 Johnny almost completely demolish the second boss of Vespers in 1 phase with Glacial Quake. He didn't have time to use his heavy. It was pretty fun. There are some changes to exotic armor that we got. Um, 3 big changes. Point contact cannon brace. We felt the lightning strikes provided by this exotic are the main focal point of using, but they lack build crafting depth beyond being visually flashy. So now, amplified lightning bolts do 100% increased damage over base, up from 50%, and lightning strike defeats now refund melee energy. Reduced underclap refund by 10% to compensate for increased energy gains on average. Cool. I still don't know if this is going to be like meta to any degree, but it's still cool to see that. We'll always take reworks and buffing of various exotics to try and get them usable in the sandbox. Raiden Flux. It's our goal that Blight Ranger and Raiden Flux have distinct abilities. So a little bit more punch being given to Raiden Flux here. Synax Junction's super damage benefit is increased to 20% per stack, up from 15% per stack. And max benefit is now 70% damage increase, up from 50%. Cool. I'm never going to use regular arc staff between you and me. I'm never going to use it. I know there are some very skilled players who like to use this in PvP. I have never been good with it in PvP. Good luck. I wish you all your luck in your future endeavors if you're using this. And then Baladros Wrathweavers. This is the big one for me. We already got one update to this, but now they're increasing shatter damage to 150%, up from 100%, and fixed an issue where enemies were inconsistently getting the boosted shatter damage, which led to decreased overall damage. Increased shatter damage will now show as a yellow number to aid with visibility of the perk. That's cool. I like that. There is a big update coming with Heresy, they say, which I would anticipate. This is probably at this about your mid episode refresh. But that's cool. I know people really like the Wrath Weavers, and I've been excited seeing those more and more. Breech-loaded grenade launchers. We heard the feedback loud and clear that the nerf to Mountaintop felt unnecessarily strong, so we've walked back some of the speed limit reduction we previously gave the damage blast impulse. So that's cool. Basically, all you speedrunners out there, this benefits you. I know that Dealer in particular was talking about this with me. And then Telesto, increased Telesto detonation by 20% in PvE. Well, good luck. I hope that doesn't break the game in any way. PvP updates. God, we have PvP updates. So some of the things that we're going to see changes to. Knucklehead Radar is getting hit particularly hard, or at least it should be. Apparently, the nerf really did not take effect. It actually pretty much got buffed. Knucklehead Radar is supposed to change how the perk is activated. Now requires to wear damage a player to mark the target. Target's marked for 3 seconds, down from 7 seconds. Yeah, apparently you can still see people through walls though. So good luck with that. Prismatic. This was always going to be my concern with Prismatic, and it's kind of coming home to roost now. We want to keep the power of fantasy for PvE. In PvP, the dominance is concerning and needs a more labor-intensive fix than we can provide inside of a mid-season patch. As such, we made the decision to give all Prismatic subclasses a blanket 15% additional ability cooldown penalty inside the Crucible. This penalty stacks on top of the current overall PvP ability cooldown penalty of 15%. So 30% cooldown from what you would normally see in PvE for your Prismatic abilities. I still don't know if that's enough, but I definitely understand this is it's bad. It's bad, especially when you play a team of like all Prismatic Hunters. It's bad. Storm's Edge. Reduced height of damage impulse from 5 to 3.75 meters. Reduced damage resistance against players from 53% to 45%, both on cast and during the spin attack. And moved from tier 3 to tier 1 super cooldown. So it'll take a little bit longer, a little bit more effort to activate that one. We just talked about Knucklehead Radar. Precision bows increase body shot damage by 10%. This does not affect La Monarch. Hand cannons, aggressive hand cannons increase damage by 3%, and Igneous Hammer reduced stability, handling, and aim assist by 3. Better Devils increased stability, handling, and aim assist by 3. And yesterday's question corrected an issue where Headseeker was not appropriately increasing crit hit damage after dealing body shot damage. And in LMGs, there's a lot for LMGs. This is primarily entirely because of Hammerhead. But magazine sizes of 50 or less will get 21 rounds. Magazines between 51 and 59 will get 21 to 26 rounds. Magazines between 60 and 80 get 26 and 27. And then, so on and so forth. Sizes between 81 and 99 get between 20 and 44 rounds. Magazine sizes over 100 should get 45 rounds. That is in a desperate attempt to curb Hammerhead and its absolute onslaught in the Crucible. As for perks, we do have updates to 2 perks, High Ground and Explosive Payload. High Ground. Oh boy. All told, High Ground offers too much of a damage buff to be triggered on such a low barrier. For now, we've reduced the stacks that are given for dealing damage with a primary weapon specifically against players down to 1 from 3. This should make the damage boost significantly less powerful in PvP, but will leave the efficiency alone in PvE. If this change is not enough, we will address it again in a future release, either by requiring a greater height differential, which cannot be so easily triggered in PvP, or greatly reducing the damage bonus against players as a whole. So this is apparently super duper bugged. Also, I don't know what's going on over there, but this one was pretty buggy too, from what we've seen today. And I believe the Destiny 2 team made a remark about this one. I want to read exactly what they said today. It's the advantage of us being so far behind. Did they not make a comment? I thought they made a comment on this. They talked about Golden Gun. I definitely thought they talked about High Ground. And I don't see it, and that's frustrating. Yeah, they didn't make a comment on it, so that's a little annoying. They may have addressed it in the TWAP today, and I just haven't gotten to that yet. But yeah, High Ground is apparently also bugged and just destroying people. Explosive Payload, reduce splash damage from the perk when used on legendary hand cannons by 7% against players only in PvP, so still works as normal. And then just couple PvP bugs fixed for Telesto, where Telesto wasn't doing the correct damage, Ariana's Vow wasn't doing crit damage, and Thorn and Lumina have had their base stability increased by 5. So yeah, interesting. General Crucible, there's some stuff here about snake drafting and about the lobby balance. I'm not going to go into all that. There's a lot there. Same with the mercy rules. That's going to be something I want to play some PvP next week in Iron Banner to see how the mercy rules feel for sure. But um, the initial system we shipped with Revenant combined with the new lobby balancer, only 27% of control games were hitting the mercy threshold, but 23% of games ended with mercies, indicating our mercy threshold was set too low for the current window. We wanted to get the number of games ending in mercies back down closer to where it was before we opened up our rules, hence experimentation with the mercy school thresholds from last week's patch. This brought the number of games hitting the threshold down to 18%, with the number ending in mercies reduced to 13%. So we'll see. They've talked about wanting to get that down. That too many games were spiraling out of control, essentially. So that's all done. Let me get to this week. Let's see if we had anything this week that we needed to talk about regarding air assaults. I don't think we did. I might just be crazy and be hallucinating it, but I could have sworn air assault was still bugged and that I had read something on it today. But okay, as for stuff coming up in the future, uh, first of all, there are some new tonics. Tonic of Tomb Gear works a lot like the Onslaught weaponry ones. Tonic of Brawling, which offers a buff that reduces combatant damage at point blank range. So that's cool. And then Tonic of Enhancement Cores. So there's that. Bungie's going to be starting a Black Friday sale on November the 26th. So you guys have that to look forward to if you want to spend your hard-earned cash. Getting Destiny 2 fashion feedback. So this has been a thing for a little while that I've voiced vocally that I wish we would see this a little bit more often than just for the Halloween armor, which we've gotten for a couple years now. We wanted to pull back the curtains a bit on planning and get more regular feedback on what kind of fashion you want to see in the future. They're going to be doing weekly surveys from Bungie Research. If you want to be in the research pool, sign up for emails in your account settings. While not guaranteed, signing up will offer a chance to be selected for the survey each and every week. And then regular feedback. They want to start giving regular updates in the TWAB and gathering feedback, starting with small but regular updates. We hope will reveal some insight into the planning process. For the sake of transparency, we want to mention that developing new armor and accessories take a lot of time. Even themes we are excited to create may take a while to make it in-game. These themes can show up in a variety of places, such as ritual activity rewards, season pass, or Eververse. Finding the right spot and release can also influence the timing for when a specific new look is released. Themes that they want to talk about this week, that will be in this week's survey. I think, some of these sound actually really cool. Wolf Bounty Hunter, stealthy dark armor with wolf fur trims, tactical gear for tracking and capturing targets, symbol of cunning and solidarity strength. A Norse Viking set, fur linings and animal hides, iron helmets, often without horns, to be historically accurate, intricate knotwork and runes, the Scorpion Assassin, sleek armor with segmented articulated plates, hidden blades, poison reservoirs, symbols of stealth and lethal precision. And then they get a little out there, which I'm very excited. The more weird that we get, but it still feels like Destiny-ish, is where I get really excited. Cyber Samurai. Samurai armor fused with neon cyberpunk elements. I love that. I've been using one of the Lightfall. I think it's one of the Lightfall shaders a lot recently. It's pink and teal. I've been using that on just about everything. I really, really like that. Speedster Recon, agile, sleek armor with advanced mobility tech. The Ethereal Monk, flowing minimalistic armor with a serene spiritual feel. That should be a big one for any of our D&D and Baldur's Gate fans. Alchemist Savant, armor featuring vials, potions, and arcane devices. Also really like that one. I've been playing a lot of Dragon Age lately, so all of these are hitting it for me. Mantis Battle Monk, armored robes with mantis blade designs, agile, flexible joints for rapid precision strikes, symbol of meditation, precision, and deadly grace. The Bat Nightblade, enhanced hearing devices for detecting movement, symbols of stealth and nocturnal agility. That just reminds me of the Nightblade armor from Nightingale armor from Skyrim. And then the Fox Trickster, light armor with sly, cunning aesthetics, gadgets and tools for deception and escape, symbols of guile and quick thinking. So I think there are definitely some cool ones that they can do here. I think out of all of these, I'd be most excited for Cyber Samurai or the Ethereal Monk. I think both of those sound really cool. Also, Mantis Battle Monk just sounds really interesting, and I want to see what that armor looks like. Ultimately, I am curious to see if that's going to be a thing or not. Um, do, 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 do. Some of the issues that are still ongoing in the game. Only one player can access the first hidden chest in Vesper's host. Fire teams have to wait for other team members to access the chest. Found out last night. Definitely thought that was fixed, and it was not. Guitar errors are occurring at an elevated rate. If a boss dies in Tomb of the Elders, when the boss is defeated, you will spawn in the warden's office and cannot claim the rewards. So, uh, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. So, and then they're going to be deploying a fix so that weapons are dropping appropriately from lost sectors. That's also been pretty bugged apparently. So, uh, last thing from the Schwab for this week. Like I said, this is just really we don't really have a lot to talk about, unfortunately, this week. Um, if we're kind of flying through this, the other stuff that we have is Iron Banner is coming back on November the 26th. There is a brand new set of armor. We've talked about this before. I think this is a big fan. Really big fan of that. Really big fan of the rocket sidearm with stasis. And Chill Clip is going to be on it. Very, very, very excited for that. Excited for the LMG to be coming back, for Archon's Thunder to be coming back. I believe that's coming back as the Stasis LMG as well. Again, the next time that we meet, we'll be talking about those two weapons. We'll be talking about the 3 weapons from Tomb of the Elders. I'm very, very excited to talk about these weapons. I need to use the SMG and the sniper a little bit. Not a big sniper guy in PvE, obviously, since that's typically where my domain is. But I do like a good SMG, and I've been on the hunt for a good one here for a little while now. So interested to use that. Hoping to get a little bit of trials in before Iron Banner comes up. Maybe see if I can finally get Aisha's Grace from last season. Other things, I don't think we really have anything else. We talked about Tomb of the Elders. We talked a little bit about the story. There's not a whole lot to talk about there. I mean, Tomb of the Elders is just kind of straightforward. Very basic encounters. You've done all this a million times. It's not that bad. I think the little poison field you dip in and out of is an interesting change, but other than that, just kind of the same thing. That's a bummer. I did see. I want to talk just a little bit before we got one more news story after this, and we had a couple questions, and we'll get out of here. But there was a little bit of commentary on the fake ammo bricks, and Dado said something the other day that kind of got me thinking. I want to pull up exactly what Dado said, because a lot of us had the same feeling, I think. The fact that people cried so hard about the counterfeit modifier and Bungie nerfed it immediately makes me sad. Might as well just remove it entirely with the nerfs, because it's just nothing now. If I were Bungie, I'd never try a new modifier ever again at this point. I gotta be honest, I feel the same way. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now, granted, I'm not running into it on GMs. I want to be really clear. I was not running into it on GMs. I can understand how that would be absolutely maddening to run into it on GMs, the way that it was. And I'm kind of 2 different thoughts. I do think there needed to be a little bit of a warning when it goes off instead of just detonating right as you touched it, but I also think that, now it's nothing. Now it's been reduced to nothing. I do think the potency can be increased a little bit. There's got to be a happy medium you can find between the two, but I do largely agree with this. I think that's why the Bane system is kind of cool to me, because that's actual enemy modifiers and you're not modifying things that are on the ground. I think that's still aggravating. Like, I get it. I get it. But I also think that this community just has a problem with, as soon as we see something we don't like for the first time, and I'm very guilty of this myself, we immediately start crying about it and throwing a fit online. And this is a very vocal fan base. And I think that as some of the old guard has kind of started to wander out of the game more and more, or just stop playing altogether, You have other folks come in who are a lot younger and maybe haven't been here since the beginning, and that's totally fine. You need new blood to keep a game going. We've always talked about that being a problem with Destiny. But they're used to getting catered to now. And so when they don't get catered to, or there's too much of a difficulty spike or something like that, they're very upset. Or there's not enough of a difficulty spike. And I know that we've all complained about certain content creators in the past and been like, oh, they just make too big of a deal out of this. Like, they just want the game to be really hard all the time. This is not a modifier you're encountering unless you're on harder difficulties to begin with. Okay, so let's just like put that out of the way right now. Second, I do think that this is a bit of an annoying modifier at times, but it's supposed to be. Not every modifier is supposed to make you better or to be beneficial to you. Like the sigh of relief I feel when I see grounded as a mod, I'm just like, oh, thank God. I'd rather deal with that than anything else. I do like the one in Challenge of Elders where you have to keep moving or you take damage. I do actually really like that one. I think when you're on the harder difficulty, that can make it a pretty decent challenge, which I like. I like that you have to keep moving. I like that you have to keep doing stuff, and you can't just stay stationary and camp out in a corner. And that's who these modifiers hurt the most. It's the people who just want to like stay and hide in the back corner or sit in their well or whatever. That's who these modifiers go after, and I think that's who gets the most upset, is because they have to change their play style even a little bit. Like, look at all the complaining we saw around Vesper's Host contest. That contest wasn't just being handed to them. It was one of the harder contest modes that we've had in anything ever, by my recollection. And we had so many people complaining about it. Just complaining about the time on first encounter. And I think the timing on first encounter was rough, but if you had even given like another 30, 45 seconds on that, think about how many more people would have just cleared, And it's clear they wanted to make it a tight window. And now that's just a simple dungeon to fly through once you've done it a couple times. It's just so time consuming to get to DPS on the final boss, I think. But I'm of the same opinion as Dado, and that's why I like Vesper's Host so much, because everybody had to play a role. Everybody had to pick up a mod. If you want to do this even remotely efficiently, everybody has parts to play. And if not, that kind of exposes who is unwilling to learn mechanics or who just wants to be carried through. And I don't understand the fun in a game like this where you don't want to learn how to do things. You don't want to do anything like that. I think Counterfeit is a mod that would probably be received a little bit better if it was in like normal ass Vanguard strikes and Onslaught and activities like that. I totally understand why it would be infuriating in GMs. And I think maybe that's like a happy medium you could get to. Like maybe you put it in GMs, but you like decrease the potency a little bit. Like just because listen, there's enough stuff trying to kill us in one shot in GMs. But I'm certainly not going to complain. Like that means I'm going to be a lot more cautious about how I go out and grab my ammo. I'm going to think about it a little bit more. That's all. And I don't think there's anything wrong with playing it a little bit more cautious. So the only thing I would add is that it's kind of annoying, I guess, thinking about in GMs how often ammo bricks tend to fall off the map. That can be really aggravating, I think. So, I did mention that we had a news story, didn't I? This came to us from Insider Gaming last week, and we were all kind of laughing about this. This came out literally the morning after our last discussion. Marvel Rivals and Destiny Rising employees at NetEase were supposedly arrested. According to Chinese outfit Li Feng, with additional context via Bloomberg Law, 9 employees, including 2 senior executives, were arrested for allegedly laundering money. Per report, the contract value appears to be worth 2 billion yuan, which is about $278.6 million. In actual money, it's really more around somewhere between 112 to 139 million dollars. The 2 executives implicated in the case serve as head of NetEase's esports division and the head of the company's publishing side. Neither executive is still with the company. Names of the other employees of the company have not been made available. At least one who was questioned has denied any claims of money laundering. The alleged corruption took place within segments of the company the 2 executives worked. The company said they also confirmed 27 different companies have been blacklisted due to links to fraud. So I don't know why this story has Marvel Rivals and Destiny Rising employees named in it. Um, the first instinct that I had when I was reading this was, oh my God, we joked about, is this a money laundering scheme when we first heard rumors about it? And oh my God, it actually might be. I guess like when you think about like the publishing side, like NetEase really doesn't do a lot of like publishing with the West technically. They do on bringing games to China, I guess, but we're talking about like specifically esports and mobile. Like Marvel Rivals is pretty clearly angling to be an esports, so that makes sense. And when you're talking about publishing, okay, you're probably the one helping make deals for things like these and Diablo Immortal and things of that nature. So I just found that to be very interesting. That was kind of like a humorous footnote of like, oh my god, like they actually were laundering money. This is a little silly. Like they're actually laundering money. So there's that little story, and we have two questions to end the night. Again, it's just a really short episode. There's just not a ton to talk about personally. Uh, we had two requests to talk about some topics. Jiggly Panda wrote in and asked for our thoughts on Tomb of the Elders, which we gave to earlier in the episode. Personally, I like it and I like the pacing. I do agree. I like the pacing a lot. I think it's really easy to just pop in and do a cycle. Grab three chests real fast and dip out. You have to do four rotations in a week to get a penny. I don't think that's bad at all. That is like 30-40 minutes of your time, maybe, and you're going to get a ton of loot out of it. My only problem is I'm running out of vault space. Like, if you're not going to make things craftable, we got to get a lot more vault space or get ways to get our rolls back or something. I'm about to start using other characters as postmasters. I'm not even, like, a little bit joking on that one. And Tiger Jesus wrote in and asked, any chance Destiny wins anything at the Game Awards? Man, all right. I guess let's talk Game Awards for a minute. We're gonna talk about Game Awards on Xbox Casuals next week. You guys have been around long enough that you know how I feel about this taking place in mid-December and the nominees getting announced in mid-November. I think it's a farce. I think it's a joke. By my calculations, when they announced it, we still had three major games, maybe four major games to be released before the end of the year that simply are not going to qualify now. This is Jedi Fallen Order and Halo Infinite all over again, which is really, really aggravating. We had this discussion. I feel like we have this every single year, and it's just getting to a point where it's really frustrating. If you're wondering what game I'm talking about, the nominees went live earlier this week. Basically, basically stuff had to come out by the end of December, or not the end of December, by the end of October to be eligible. I believe the latest released thing that was eligible was Dragon Age Veilguard and Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. I will say this: when I look at the list of games that have come out since then, Mario and Luigi Brothership, Rise of the Golden Idol, if is Rise of the Golden Idol the one I'm thinking of? Yeah, I think it's the one. No, that actually technically came out a couple years ago. I think it's just a re-release. Dragon Quest 3, the HD 2D remake, which just came out, and I have like heard no discussion on. Lego Horizon Adventures, Flight Sim 2024, Stalker 2. Stalker 2 is that's a big game. And Indiana Jones, which comes out early December. Those are ones that I immediately think of, and it's like, okay, this is a problem that these aren't even going to get to be a part of the conversation. Marvel Rivals comes out on the 6th of December. Like these are major games. These are just major games that are not going to be able to be talked about simply because, hey, they came out at, an inopportune time. I don't know why we can't announce these. Like, I honestly think if you came out and announced your nominees the week after Christmas on like the 28th or 29th or something and said, yeah, we're doing our award show like mid-January, mid to late January, there would be absolutely zero pushback on that. Zero. And I think that publishers probably like that this is happening in December because that's a final push for sales for them for the holiday season. Like the nominees come out the week before Black Friday, the show happens 2 weeks before Christmas. I get it. They're partnering with Amazon this year for sales and all this other shit. I just think it's really, really, really silly that's the point that we're at. And I know that the argument is, well, they can be nominated the next year. Yeah, we've seen how that's turned out. Both when Jedi Fallen Order came out in 2019, and I would argue when you had Halo Infinite come out in 2021. Both of those games likely would have been in that conversation at least. I think Jedi Fallen Order 100% would have been in the conversation for Game of the Year in 2019. I don't know if Infinite would have done it, but I think Infinite's story and the momentum it had around the multiplayer release was enough. It won the fan choice, for instance, you know. But we see this almost every year. Almost every year, there are major games left off because not everything has come out, or it's been released, but it wasn't reviewed in time to make it on there. And I think that's just so silly to cut. You're cutting 2 months of the year off. You know, you're cutting a sixth of the year off just for that, and then to come out and say, well, they'll be eligible next year. Dude, nobody's going to remember that they weren't eligible last year. Let's just be totally honest. So I think that's silly and ridiculous. And then you look at, I wanna pull up the full list of nominees for this year because oh boy, this is some of these are choices. Let's be really real here. Some of these are choices. I want to jump to the one that Destiny is nominated for, which is Best Ongoing Game. The nominees for Best Ongoing Game are Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. I cannot think of a more wide open award for Helldivers 2 to win than this one. I do not think that it is going to be Destiny this year. Here's my argument. I think Destiny, if we were just talking about the final shape, Destiny should win this in a landslide. I think when you're talking about overall player sentiment and the momentum the game had all year long, for me, it's Helldivers 2. I think that was a critical darling also. Um, you look at the sales numbers it had. I just think that's going to win probably in a landslide on this. Final Fantasy 14 is always a safe bet. Fortnite could come in. I don't think Diablo or Destiny really stands a chance in this category, sadly. As much as I would say it's Destiny out of these five. I think Helldivers is probably still a massive layup here. Um, Interesting, and I'm not entirely unsurprising. Best community support: Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. Uh, all five of those are totally worthy. All five of those are worthy. I don't know which one I would even take out for Destiny. Like all five of those games have been better with communicating with their fans and with delivering on patches and promises. So I see no problem there. Some of the other ones that I was interested in, some of the other ones I was really really interested in this year. Best action game: Black Myth Wukong, Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer Space Marine 2. I'm very interested in what we're defining as an action game these days. Action adventure: Astrobot, Prince of Persia, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. That's a layup for Astrobot at this point, I think. Even though I really love Prince of Persia, and it's probably making my top 10. That is an absolute layup for Astrobot. Best RPG, this is the one I think a lot of people took issue with. Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantasio. Uh, I don't think any of those is unworthy. I do think that there is a good discussion popping up around the Game Awards though, and it's one that we're going to have next week on Xbox Casuals. We are planning on doing one right before Thanksgiving. Corey and I have been talking about what we want to do for. I think it's going to be a stalker discussion and maybe some Game Awards talk. Kind of be our last chance to have it on Xbox Casuals before the actual ceremony. But I don't think any of these five is necessarily the wrong nominee. I would personally have Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, God, Final Fantasy is on this list. Persona 3 Reload and Dragon Age Veilguard would both make this list for me over, honestly, Dragon's Dogma 2 and probably Shadow of the Erdtree, just because I think that we have now moved to a point where, and this is not me knocking on Elden Ring. I know that you guys are going to be, Josh, you only like Elden Ring. That's not what this is about. This is about, we're at a point now with DLCs where DLCs are so good that I think that DLCs need to have their own category. You need to have your own category for DLCs. Now, what do I mean by DLCs? I think the line between DLC and a true expansion is really kind of treading the line. For me, an expansion is something that is coming out for an ongoing game. So, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy 14, Destiny 2. I think those types of games, Diablo 4, like those games not only get expansions, they have seasonal content, things like that. I think DLCs are things like Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty, Elder Scrolls Shivering Isles. John brought that example up to last night. Shadow of the Erd Tree. I think those are DLCs as far as I'm concerned. Starfield Shattered Space, definitely not in the same category as this, but still nonetheless a DLC, albeit on a smaller scale. I think that it is high time that we had categories for both of those, and then a best remake and a best remaster category. There are simply too many of each of these every single year to do it. And hey, if you don't have enough nominees, if you don't have like 3 or 4 nominees in a year, guess what? You don't have to do that category for that year because critics didn't think that there were good enough ones. Now, one of the critiques that I've seen around this is, oh my god, there's a remake, there's a mobile game, and a DLC all nominated for Game of the Year. Let me tell you something. Those games that you're talking about, I think every single one of them is worthy of Game of the Year. Astrobot, so your nominees for Game of the Year here. Nominees for Game of the Year and Game Direction, I believe, are exactly the same. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. So the complaints I have seen have been centered around Balatro, Elden Ring, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth definitely to a lesser extent. Like if you've played Rebirth at all, and you've also played the original Final Fantasy VII, you understand this is not simply just a remake. This is a completely new game. I made the argument for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm making the argument here. It's a totally different, totally unique game. This is like a 70 to 80 hour game just on its own. Just this. Not counting the content from Final Fantasy VII Remake, not counting the part from whatever Part 3 is going to be called here in a few years. Totally unique, totally different game. Explorable in a way that the original never was. Balatro has been the indie sensation of the year. The last time I saw an indie get this much traction, I think, was Hades. And if this won Game of the Year, I would not be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And then, I made my thoughts clear on Elden Ring, on DLCs. I gave my Game of the Year to a DLC last year, so I can't really be talking. I think for a show like this, you probably need to draw. You probably need to draw different lines. Like I have a lot less credibility than a show like this. Let's put it that way. This is the show, though, that a lot of people are going to see and be like, oh my God, that's Game of the Year. And it's like, yeah, you still have to own the base game for it, though, and then the DLC. So if this was like standalone, I would totally get it. It's not, though. And I think that puts you into a really weird position of what should be nominated for Game of the Year and what shouldn't be. And I think I would have less issue with this if Elden Ring hadn't won Game of the Year 2 years ago. This feels like an excuse to give it another award because it's the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards and be like, oh yeah, this is like the most celebrated game we've ever had. That's what this feels like to me. I'm not a fan of it. But who the hell am I to talk? I'm sitting here advocating for replacing that or Black Myth Wukong with Persona 3 Reload or, to put Veilguard in there because, right now my top 4 of the year are in some way, shape, or form Metaphor ReFantazio, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Dragon Age Veilguard, and Persona 3 Reload. That's probably my top 4 for the year. Top 5, if you want, 5 is an argument for Astrobot or Final Shape at this point, if we're being frank. So I think there's definitely discussions to be had around that. I look forward to having one of those with Corey when he gets back. Best narrative, one of the other things I wanted to hit. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, no surprise. Metaphor ReFantazio, no surprise. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Silent Hill 2 and Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This is where I kind of wonder if remakes or remasters should even be eligible. Because we've already seen the story play out. Like, I've made the argument, I think Rebirth does so many new things. I personally have not played Silent Hill 2's remake. I don't know if remakes and remasters should be eligible for this. Like, I would have thrown an absolute bitch fit if Persona 3 Reload got nominated here, because it doesn't deserve to be nominated here. I would even have a problem with Persona 5 Royale being nominated here, because it's technically just adding content on, is all that's doing. And you couldn't get it without buying a brand new version of the game. So again, I think this opens up some interesting discussions. Best art direction. I was really, really hoping we would see Destiny in here for this one. Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Metaphor Refantasio, and Neva. Best score in music. Again, another one I was really hoping we'd see Destiny for. But Astrobot, Final Fantasy, Metaphor, Silent Hill 2, Stellar Blade. Um, Audio design, gotta give a shout out in audio design. Astrobot, Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. I would give this to Hellblade 2 in an absolute heartbeat. I didn't particularly love the game, but God, Ninja Theory is so good at what they do. And then the last one that I wanted to shout out here is best performance. Brianna White for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Hannah Telle for Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez for Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts, Silent Hill 2, and Melina Jurgens for Hellblade 2. The feeling this is probably Brianna White's to lose, but Corey and I really, really love what Melina Jurgens does with Senua. So, the other question that we had relating to this, I know this was question time, and I just took like 15 minutes to rant about the Game Awards. Tiger Jesus also asked, think we'll see any marathon at the Game Awards? No. Marathon is a game that when they show it next, you have to show gameplay. This is an extraction shooter with PvP elements. You're going to have to show that. You're going to have to do it akin to the, I would say, you're going to have to show it similar to the Destiny 2013 E3 demo. I think that's going to have to be the kind of reveal that you go for here. I would not expect to see Marathon until at least end of Q1 in 2025. I think they're going to wait for a PlayStation Presents to do it. Maybe Bungie does a special stream. I don't know. But I think that it's gonna have to come at a Sony event. I don't think they're gonna show it this year because I think they know they have to show it with gameplay. You can't just come out with another little concept trailer. You have to actually show something. I think your better bet, and I would almost guarantee this is going to happen. I think we get the first tease of Apollo and actually find out the name of Codename Apollo. That would be my guess. At that point, you will be approximately 6 months out from when they want to release. And traditionally, that's when we start seeing the marketing come out. If a game's releasing in February, we usually get the stuff in August. The only other argument I could make is that if you don't see it there, you're seeing it the first week of January when they, or not first week of January, you would see it in February whenever Heresy comes out. I could see them waiting until then. I don't know that they will. I think Bungie is there in some capacity, but I would almost guarantee it's Destiny related. I don't think it's going to be Marathon related. And I think it's a layup because Destiny's already nominated for Best Ongoing Game. So it would be a layup to announce something there. They have a history of doing this too. We've gotten stuff at the Game Awards several years, and at Keighley events, even in the summer in the past. So, and the summer at Gamescom, we've seen stuff for a while. So I do think something is coming, but I think it's going to be Destiny related when we see it at the Game Awards. What better way to get all eyes on your next saga than to have it premiere during the Game Awards? So that's going to be it for us tonight, though, I think, guys. This is, like I said, this is a pretty short show. It's just me flying solo without Corey. Thank you for everybody who tuned in and listened. Just kind of an idea of where we're going for the next couple weeks with the holidays coming up. You're listening to this. This is publishing on the evening of the 21st, morning of the 22nd, depending on how long it takes me to export this. Next week at some point, whether it be Tuesday or Wednesday, Corey and I are planning to record and release a short talk about Stalker 2 and probably breaking down some Game Awards categories for Xbox casuals. Just hasn't been a whole lot of news this week, but we have some things to talk about there. And the very bumpy launch of Flight Sim. We'll be back the first week of December. December 6th will be the next episode of Tower Casuals. We'll be back to talk about Iron Banner, talk about some of the weapon drops from the season, get Corey's thoughts on Tomb of Elders, since he's absolutely begged for Prison of Elders to come back for all this time. Week of December 12th and 13th, that is going to be Game Awards. Game Awards happen on the 12th at 7:30 Eastern. So I would say we will probably be doing Xbox casuals during the Game Awards, and kind of like last year, be breaking in and announcing anything that happens during that. My goal is for us to get one more Tower Casuals in after that before Christmas. We want to get it in while the Dawning is going. Dawning starts up on like the 9th or on the 10th, I think, is when the Dawning starts. Our goal would be to do a show during the Dawning, um, the week of the 19th. Um, it kind of all depends on if they tell us they're going to do a TWAB or not. If they do a TWAB, we kind of have to have our hands side and have to wait until Thursday or Friday. If not, we can do it a little bit earlier in the week and just talk about the Dawning. So we want to definitely be able to do that. And then we will be on break. We'll probably be on break for 2 weeks for the Christmas and New Year's holidays, just because all the holidays fall. I am going out of town for several days, so I will not be around, and there's not going to be a lot going on in game or in gaming. Okay, take some time, play some Iron Banner, play some Dawning. Play some of those new fun games. At some point, we're going to get to a review on Indiana Jones, and then when we come back in January, it's time for Act 3 and Game of the Year ballots for Corey and I. We'll have everything done by then. The last major games we're trying to get to are Stalker and Indiana Jones, for the two of us. So definitely stay tuned and look for all of that. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you Starside.